Hi everyone, welcome to my overview/review of Wonder Boy 3 Dragon's Trap. This game is one of my all-time favorites, and I was excited to see someone undertake the task of updating this RPG platformer. First, let's take a look at the unusual history of this pre-Sonic Sega flagship series. The first game was Sega's answer to Super Mario Bros. A Sega executive did not like the Super Mario Bros. Style and wanted to make something with more action. I remember going to class skate party in elementary in the 80s, and being the person I am, spending my time in the arcade. Wonder Boy caught my eye, and I spent the night feeding it quarters. It was a straightforward platformer that used many tricks to keep you moving at a frantic pace. There were power-ups such as a skateboard. Overall, it was a fun game with a decent level of difficulty and fun character design. I didn't see the game for a couple years after that, and then one day I was looking at a Nintendo magazine and saw a game called Hudson's Adventure Island. I rented the game, and it was essentially Wonder Boy, with the biggest change being that the main Jungle Boy character, Wonder Boy, was replaced with a character wearing a grass skirt and a hat reminiscent of Mario's, or a baseball cap, depending on how you interpret it or whatever fan art you see. The character's name was Master Higgins, a tribute to the head of Hudson Soft. I would learn years later that while Sega owned Wonder Boy, they did not own the code to the game. Escape, the company who created it and programmed it, licensed it to many companies, which created the Sega Wonder Boy, Hudson Adventure Island, a Brazilian game that was based on a popular cartoon there, and even a version on Sega's own Game Gear that was not called Wonder Boy, but the Revenge of Drancon. Over the years, various sequels have made their ways to different consoles from Nintendo, Sega, and Hudson's, the TurboGrafx-16 PC engine, which brings us to Dragon's Trap. Now for me, this is my story. For Christmas 1989, my Christmas list was topped with a newly released TurboGrafx-16 from NEC Hudson. I know I was one of the people that, few people who didn't want the Sega Genesis. I did like the Genesis though. I didn't think I would get it, as my mom said it was too expensive. I didn't get it for Christmas, but I did receive it a few days later for my birthday. Yes, I'm one of those unlucky people born shortly after Christmas. She had found a way. She was great. Even if looking back, I really didn't deserve it. Just a bratty kid. One of the first games I bought for the system was Dragon's Curse, a game I would later find out was in actuality a graphical upgrade for the Sega Master System version of Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap. The TurboGrafx-16 was called the PC engine in Japan, and while it failed to find an audience in the US, partly due to it not being a true 16-bit system and kind of being dated, even though it was huge in Japan, it was a Hudson system, and they produced most of the Wonder Boy series on the platform under different names. Dragon's Curse was my favorite game I owned for the TurboGrafx-16, which is why I am anxious for this update. So without further ado, let's take a look at this cool game. I can't wait to tell you guys about the graphical upgrades. So a couple notes before we start. I do plan on interspersing a couple of the TurboGrafx images that I captured from the Wii Virtual Arcade. I do own the game, but I wanted to kind of do that. So anyway, just want to let you guys know. So first thing I want to show what happens from the gallery. You don't get anything in the start. You have to unlock them. I just wanted to show that. Then edit it out because I wanted you guys to know and see how you get those. Everything else, just kind of straightforward. One thing I will say is it is cool how they show you the controls and how to edit, because the coolest feature about this game is you can take it back to the Sega Master System graphics at any time. And so, if you want to play retro, you have that choice. A lot of people complained about the DuckTales remaster that you had no option of playing the original. And as you could see in my other video, the Disney Afternoon Collection, you finally got all the original. I like this because it gives you the best of both worlds. So let's go ahead and start playing. Ooh, empty. You can choose a boy or a girl, and you definitely could not do that in the original, but it's kind of cool. Maybe you could. I honestly never played the Sega Master System version. Mine was the TurboGrafx. So, this is really neat. I can already tell you the graphics look great. They look hand-drawn. They're beautiful. The scene here would have been like the kind of rudimentary 8-bit with a bunch of text. So this game starts at the end of the previous. So you're actually replaying the last part of the previous game. And being on the Turbo Graphics, that was fine because they still included all of that, but you had no idea why. So if you played Wonder Boy, I believe it's the Monster's Lair, that would lead you into this. So I can already tell you, just coming in to this, when I picked this up, because this is the first time I've really played the game through since about 2008 when I got it on the Virtual Console, and I really didn't get too far into it, but it's just so awesome. So while I didn't say this in the intro, while this game, you know, while the first Wonder Boy was a lot like a straightforward platformer, kind of like Mario, this one has a lot more of the Castlevania 2 elements, where it is a side-scroller. But you're really, and it's open world, kind of like how Castlevania 2 was, but you're really limited. And these are the Sega Master System graphics. Just wanted you to see that. And here's the first dragon. And I love this. The dragon designs are probably my favorite part of this game. And as you saw with the 8-bit, it's really pretty cool. So I'm speeding this up a little bit because part of this is I want to show you the first part of the game, and then come a couple of boss or so afterwards, just to show you kind of the mechanics of the game and just how cool looking it is. So you beat the dragon, and then this little flame shows up, you get all these coins. When it touches you, you get hit with your first curse, and you're changed right into the dragon guy. Which, I love the updated graphics. The Turbo Graphic one looks cool, and I think we have our first interspersal here in a second. So now you've been cursed, and now you have to escape the castle that's being destroyed. Uh-oh. So you just go through, and you've got all these falling rocks. You get out of the castle. I kind of like that little detail. Lets you play the last one, and kind of gives you an idea what happened to Wonder Boy to get into such a cursed state. So as I was saying, so there's a lot to be said of this being kind of like Castlevania 2, where even though the world is open and you can see everything, you really have to make progress in the game. You're blocked by the abilities or items. So now we're coming up, and there's no other boss. You just go through, and once you finish the Captain of the Guard, which you just saw there, you go straight to the intro cutscene for the actual game. So the actual game starts here. And you can see the graphics, and so that's the new version, the old version, and here is the first Turbo Graphics. As you can see, they really did a great job updating it. It's not as dirty as the Master System, which the Master System looks great, don't get me wrong. I would have loved it there, but it is nice seeing something new. So this is where you start. As I was saying, there's some Castlevania stuff where you can go into all these doors. This is the save area where you can access saved areas. Since this is an auto-saving game, it's not as important, but you can use other things. You go in this, we'll come back to this one in a second, and I'll also discuss the save feature here in a little more detail. You go to the top one, and that is your first shop. Your gear is very important. You may be a fire-shooting lizard, but you really need to look at gear. And there's gear shops everywhere, so sometimes you kind of have to look for the best deal to get the most stuff. So now we're walking over. Here, as I was saying, here's your medical. This is the healer. We don't need that right now. We'll get back. You'll also notice up at the top left, there's one heart. It is important to get more hearts. So we come over to the left. This is an obstacle. I'll show you that in a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. You have to make progress in the game to be able to go through that. And I'll discuss that as we get further into the game. So you see the top door has a lock. We're going to go in the bottom door. Now when we go in the bottom door, if you walk to the left, there's a lot of doors that are just warps back. And if you go through that door, it just takes you right back to where you started. There's a lot of that in this game, and if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be able to get anywhere. So now what we just got was another heart container. I know that's a Zelda thing, but I think a lot of people know what that is. So now we have 2 hearts. Very important to get that. You also need the armor. So now we're going to start moving. We're going to go to our first part. The weird thing about this game, and I've had a lot of friends who are playing this for the first time and I've talked to, and they said probably the biggest complaint about this game is it's not straightforward. And it's really not. As you can see, we're now stuck in this area. And I love this. So now, the first place you go is into a beach area. And this is kind of reminiscent of the first Wonder Boy. And take the door, another warp door. So there's a lot of the warp doors, you have to be careful and know where you're going. So now we're going over the water, and I love these. So the enemy structure in this game is, there's 3 colors for each type of enemy. Red, green, and blue. Red is the lowest, and usually the easiest to defeat. Green, I believe, is the second. I may have it backwards. And is a little harder. And blue is the hardest. So this is an entry level, so they're going to be pretty cool. So we're crossing over the water, and we'll get to something here in a second. So a lot of friends were saying one of the problems with the game is it's not very straightforward. Well, unfortunately, with things like Castlevania, Simon's Curse, that's just something you have to overcome. Once you get used to it, though, and you kind of get your way, you know how to explore. So here's the first thing we're going to see. Fall into the water. You don't die. And I love this. Instead, you go to a level below. And as with the checkered boards that I told you about earlier, this is another obstacle that you can overcome a little further in the game. Like right now, it's not a real obstacle, but there's other water areas that you need a certain ability to be able to navigate the water. So I like this. I like the fact that you don't die if you fall into the water. And it's not even arbitrary. This is one of the games that's consistent. When you fall, unless you fall into a very specific thing, you're not going to die. You're just going to go to another map. So now we've almost reached the end of this first part, and this is a good introductory art. I love the art to this, like that pirate ship and the moving ship. You can really tell that that lizard cube had, they had the original intention of this game's graphics at heart when they did all these upgrades. On the TurboGrafx 16 version right now, you actually have an upside-down pirate ship that you only see the bottom of it. And I think that's where they got this. I don't think the Master System version shows that. Oh, and here comes one of those flying cloud guys. As you can see, that blue guy took a lot more hits than the red guys. But that cloud guy is just annoying. Luckily, he doesn't show up very much. So we've made it to the end, and we came here for a very specific reason. But the first thing, we're going to go into another one of these shops. So you can see there's another 2 pieces of armor. If you look to the left, whenever you get over it, it tells you what it changes. I believe in this shop you want the Master Shield. Here's something interesting about that. Well, let's go into that third door. So here's the real reason we came here. And that's to get the key. This key will allow you to open that door all the way at the first area. So this is almost like your demo level to get you ready to go. But anyway, what's in that shop? And also something else you can do here. As with most RPGs, since reloading an area regenerates the enemies, as you can see, you can farm. And up in the top right, you see the fireball. That's an item, which we'll get to a little bit later. A potion, which automatically regenerates. We'll get to that a little bit later. And cash. I just kind of skipped, as you saw through the jump edit, I just kind of jumped over that. But we bought that armor because that armor is better. But but the shield is not. So we buy the shield as we go. Now we go into the items, into our inventory. And as you can see, that's what we start with. But now we've bought the Goblin Mail. Goblin Mail was auto put on when we got here. So what I wanted to tell you is in the TurboGrafx version, and I don't know if the original Sega Master System, you cannot buy that. When you got to this area early in the game, you were meant to come back. You had to make a little bit more progress in the game before you could get that far. So, I mean, I don't know, because I tell you, I bought this armor, and through the playthrough, you know, it took from one hit taking off a piece of my heart to it took a lot of hits. So we go all the way to the left. So falling in the water, you still have to go, you know, kind of was not a good thing, because you can't go to the left and get back up. You have to go back to the end of this and go up. But we did get a secret item, that chest that was full of items, which again, I'll get to in a little bit. So anyway, as I was saying with the gold earlier, the gold actually is very important because it's what allows you to buy items. I suggest if you find something you want, farm. So we're just moving through quickly. I just wanted, you know, with the game I wanted to make sure that I could cover everything without going over 30 minutes. Boom, warp door's back. We've got the key. And as I was saying, so in the other shop, it was interesting, you cannot, in the TurboGrafx 16 version, you cannot buy the gear until you came back. Like at a later level, or incarnation. And so anyway, as you put your, as you put the icon over the armor or the item you want to buy, it tells you what that's like a plus 12. And the sword and the shield here were better than what we got the last one. And there you go. So this is kind of fun, and farming is not bad, because if you find a good place to farm, you just come in, go back out, they respawn, and you get that. So now we're going to climb the tower. And as you can see, those are those checkered blocks, which I'll explain here in a moment. I love that windmill. See, in the original game, it's just a tower. Well, as you can see there's the TurboGrafx 16. Also, you can see that the dragon is much more detailed than the Sega Master System version was. That's because they weren't using Wonder Boy. It technically wasn't Wonder Boy. So now we go to the desert, which is beautiful. You can go to the right, but it's a section that you need to be much further along, so we're not going to go very far there. So now I'll go to the left. I just want to show you a couple of these creatures and the backgrounds. The backgrounds are just gorgeous. They really loved this game. You could just tell. So you just go through, and then you'll see another new monster. And as you can see, these are green, which means they were stronger than those first. Luckily, since we have the armor, it makes a lot of difference. We don't take any of the damage. So this is what it looks like, the Master System version. I love how you have the Pharaoh statue in the background. So we'll just keep moving. So you follow this one. And also, one of the reasons I'm doing this review is I want to show you which way to go. Because as I said earlier, one of the problems people seem to have with this game is that it is not straightforward. Well, this should tell you at least how to start. And once you know how to start going this way, it is much easier to find your way. So we climb over this pyramid. And really, we don't even have to, but I want to show you guys another secret. Because, as I said, the heart containers are the most important part. So over on this other side, we have another. But just also all this detail work that they did. I mean, they just greatly improved this game. I love this little pig boss here. He's got a crossbow. He even looks cool in the original version. And so this is another great place to farm. You can go in this door or go up the pyramid and come back down, and just, as you can see, he drops a bag. He's a great farming location. So here's our third heart thing. And you really need this, because one of the problems that I have with the game is the controls are a little sticky, which is a lot like, you know, it's like when you hit something, you're going to go a little bit further. And that can hurt you a lot in this game. So having 3 hearts at the beginning really helps you get up to the first boss. So as you can see, we're now in a world of checkered blocks, which I think is a hint about what's happened. Because this is called the Dragon's Curse. And as you can see, there we go. So what that was up at the top right, I told you about the potion thing. Well, the potion, if you have a potion, if you, for any reason, lose all of your hearts, it will autofill your heart container, so you have one more chance. This is important because later I will show you what happens when you die. And you know, these games are built for difficulty, so you will not like what happens when you die. But I'll show that a little later. So this is the Pyramid Hall. This is the area for the first boss. I'm not going to show you all of this. So as you can see, I'm skipping a little bit ahead. So you really, the game's straight, when you get into these parts, which are kind of like sub-dungeons, I guess, it's really straightforward. Not just like that. You fall down into this little nook, and this is one of the ones where they kind of took some stuff out. Like, I love those pharaoh head statues. And now we go our first dragon, or second dragon, but first boss in the game. The Mummy Dragon. So dragons are kind of straightforward. You just figure, as with all 8-bit games, you figure out the pattern. Once you defeat him, the blue flame shows up. And just as what happened when you were a human, you get changed, this time, into a mouse. So each character has its own power. The dragon, his thing is he has a range attack. The mouse, his ability is he can attach to those checkered blocks, which is really cool. And I love the new graphic because the old guy kind of looks like he's wearing a Mickey. He looks like a human wearing a Mickey Mouse hat. As you can see, if you come back in, the chests are still there, but they technically are empty. So, as you can see, you just walk along. It's kind of easy. I will say, I kind of don't like the mouse. While he can walk on these blocks, it's harder for him to hit things, because everything's taller than him, and it really takes a lot more control, because he's not a ranged attack, he's just a sword and shield, and since he's smaller, it's harder for him to hit. So you come into this door, and there's so first thing you get is, that's kind of your reward for beating it. You couldn't get to this room, as you saw, unless you were the mouse. So you get all the coins, and you get that, and then you come in and you have another store. Stores are everywhere. But always keep an eye open on these things, because not all of them are worth it. So now we go on the last, and this is the coolest feature of the game. You kind of get into a warp world, where what this does is it gives you access, after you've defeated the boss, to go right back to the starting area. Boom, that's your warp door. So now we show this. So what this is the original password. So the original Sega Master System game had a password on it. And when you would start, this is what all 8-bit games have. The TurboGrafx 16 here, it came with something called the Turbo Booster, or you could buy this, and it was kind of the first home console memory card. And you could just save the game on there instead of having to have it. In the early 90s, that was amazing. As you can see, now we can go over that block, but yeah, so in this game, they allow you to use the retro save feature, or not the retro save, but the retro code feature. And if you went into a Sega Master System version of the game, the code would work. Really cool. I'm also glad I could show you that 16. I could show you what the TurboGrafx 16 save on the Turbo Boost looked like. It's really great feature, and I mean, amazing for 1990, you know? So, I'm not going to show you too much more of the game, I just kind of want to show you highlights. And now, I kind of want to talk about items. As you look at these worlds are just beautiful. Like, I love this field, because it's just a forest in the 8-bit version, but I love that they created that statue. You got that guy back. Ugh. So now I want to talk about items. So this is a game that items are key. Because especially when you're the mouse and you don't have a range attack, you've got items such as a boomerang, flame, tornado, and I'm forgetting, and thunder. Thunder is kind of a general attack. The tornado sends a kind of a spinning tornado along the wall, or I'm sorry, along the ground. So you saw those like kind of things that shot up from the floor. It kills those. It's great for that. Flame, if you're not the mouse, you're taller, it allows you to shoot things that you don't have to bend down to attack. My favorite is the boomerang, because the boomerang comes back to you and you get to keep it, and so it gives the mouse a ranged attack that is very important, and I think I'm about to show it. So keep your items, make sure you make good use of them, and if it's a reusable one like the boomerang, do not do not lose it. Always make sure, because you can lose it if you jump it. If you jump over it, it's going to go right past you. So the difficulty gets up. As I said, Mouseman's a little more difficult. So we're about to jump ahead, and we'll go ahead and jump ahead to the next dragon, which the next dragon is Zombie Dragon. Same with the other two dragons you've already faced. He just has a pattern, but the difficulty, as I was saying, has stepped up. So he can be a little bit more harder because the mouse guy does not handle him as well. So let's jump through. This was the first time I died, so I want to show you the death animation. Kind of reminds me of Maximo. I know Maximo was Ghosts and Goblins, but that was what they did best. So that is awesome. So when you die, you get this little death roulette thing where if the pointer stops on a red heart, you get another potion. Here's the TurboGrafx 16 version, which I think still looks pretty good. As I said, they did a good job with that. So here's the bad part. Whenever you die, you go back to the starting area. You lose all your items, no potions. You do get to keep your money, which is good. Just the mouse and the guy. So that's it. So here is the gallery. After you've beaten guys, you unlock pictures. I love the artwork. I cannot say enough good things about the artwork here. They did good. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I did not unlock everything. You have to keep playing. But I just love these, so I just wanted to show that. So that's the game. So now let's move on to my final thoughts. So what are my thoughts on this game? I've got to say, I love this game. I'm a big retro fan, so I know a lot of people, they don't like to see the original sauce messed with, but I think in this game they just added so much to the game. The new graphics just look great. I think they keep in line with the original graphics to the game and the original themes to the game. Music-wise, I'd have to say this may be one spot where I may like the original, but the new music is good as well. I just think that everything they did shows they love the game. Of course, though, I think they did maintain the original integrity of the game, which is kind of a double-edged sword. The controls can just be they're not very tight. I mean, sometimes your character it's almost like they're sliding a little bit. And the timing can be a little bit off. So it just feels like sometimes the timing there's a lag, I guess a little bit. But otherwise, the game's still fun. You get used to that, and I'd say it's great. And, I mean, I have to say this is one of my favorite all-time games. It's a game that I finished back in the day when it first came out on the TurboGrafx, because that was the first time I was aware of it. But this is something that makes me want to play it again. One of my friends, he plays it with his son. His son's loving it. He's loving it. He texted me because I'm the one who told him about it, and he texted me to tell me, oh, man, I'm loving it. And he's gotten up to the further incarnations. So, as I was saying, the game is open, but you can't get to certain areas until you unlock other incarnations. And that's cool. That is such a great feature. I think it's cool, and eventually you will be able to choose which one you want to be, because towards the end of the game, you have to use all of them together. This game has a lot of secrets. You can always find new shops. You can get more heart containers, a lot of warp doors. It's just good stuff. So I've got to say, if you enjoy what you've seen, the game only gets better. Pick it up. It's $19.99. It's available on the Switch, the PS4, Xbox One, and I believe later this summer on Steam. I think if you pick this up, you'll definitely see why they chose this game over the others in the series to update, why it was a game of passion for them. And if you haven't checked out the other games, check them out too. So for Gamma Penguin, this is Nathan. Definitely giving this game a big thumbs up, and hope you'll check it out, and I hope you like it as much as I did. Have a great day.